here, and I have my layout for day 14 of our month-long Off the Board series that a whole bunch of us are participating in. So for the whole month of July, we're diving into our Pinterest boards, looking through everything we've been pinning over the years and finding things that just give us that little bit of a creative spark. So you can kind of say to yourself that you are using up all of these pins, you're actually doing them. It doesn't have to be your scrapbooking pins either. Go into all of your different boards because you never know where something might kind of just give you an idea for a layout. Maybe it's a picture that you have that kind of goes with a specific theme, or maybe it's the color combination or just the general feel of whatever it might be. Just go through there and see all those things that you've been pinning over the years that are kind of sitting doing nothing. Now is your opportunity to let them just give you a bit of a boost of inspiration. So my pin that I'm using for this layout is the layout that I showed you at the beginning of the video. It's a Scraplift actually from Daisy, from Daisy's Scraps. She scraplifted Christy, so I'm kind of doing, I guess, a double scraplift of two of my favorite scrappy people ever. And I just kind of loved the color scheme that she goes with and the big swipes of paint. And yeah, I just really like the whole thing. So I was trying to think of something else I could do, a different color scheme to kind of make mine a little bit unique, but also do the exact same kind of paint swipes. And then Storm came by and sat on my shoulder for a little bit while I was kind of on my phone looking and trying to decide what to do. And I thought I could do all the stormy colors, kind of the blacks and the grays and the dark blues and that kind of thing, and then just spell her name. So I'm adding, I guess, a fifth column to the layout, and then you can see here I'm kind of doing it in those dark and stormy colors. So for the darker ones, I wanted to add a little bit of texture, and I went with a little bit of black watercolor out of a tube. It's a Reeves watercolor. And then I added some white acrylic paint to it. So it kind of thickens it up a little bit and creates this really kind of different, almost matte texture. And that's what I'm doing my blacks and my grays with. And then for the darker blues, I went back into my watercolors. I just wanted to kind of play around with that a little bit. The acrylic paint sits on the paper a little bit differently as well and kind of picks up the texture from the paper. So it just adds that kind of very subtle touch of interest and detail into my paint swipes. And then I've also been playing with my watercolors a lot, so I thought it would be fun to just do something a little bit different. So once I went ahead and swiped my paint, I know I did not mark my center very well, so everything is slightly off, but I fixed that in the end. But while that's drying, I just went into my kit from How to Kill a Kit with Style. This is like a giant summer kit that I put together with a lot of the papers that I got from Christy in her Happy Mail package that she sent me. And there is some Close to My Heart stuff from Jen Smith in here, like this paper. I just went through and tried to find things that were similar, maybe not quite exactly the same shades, but very, very similar to the colors that I swiped. Probably in hindsight, just a tip if you want to do this, it might be easier to actually look for papers first so that you know that you have something that roughly matches. I think I just kind of lucked out that I happened to have things that were close enough and that I'm really happy with. But if you look at Daisy's, she matches almost perfectly her papers with her paint. She may have even painted those paper so that they matched exactly, but you could do it kind of in reverse, and then you know for sure that you have papers that match to whatever level you want them to match to. So I'm using two Close to My Heart papers. I'm using this sort of like scripty paper that I think comes from Maggie Holmes. I did a big haul from my local Dollar Tree where I got a ton of American Crafts and Recollection stuff, and that's where this paper right here comes from, as well as the one in behind it. That's all part of my summer kit too. So it's very, very thin paper, but it's perfect for this kind of thing. So this is going to be that sort of middle shade of gray, I guess you could say. And then in behind will be the darker one. And then for the very lightest blue, I'm actually just using that piece of cardstock. That actually also came from Daisy from Cardstock Warehouse. So another little fun thing that I like to do oftentimes when I'm playing around with the inspiration pieces is I try to find other little ways that I can bring meaning into the layout that isn't necessarily obvious, but it's just kind of fun for me to be able to put all of those connections together. Like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of thing. So here is my, this is my darkest piece. I wanted mostly papers that have some sort of pattern or something of interest on them, but I kind of like that I have that one, at least that the M, that's sort of a solid color. I just think I wanted to make sure they were all readable and that you could see what letter each one was, but I kind of like that they have their own little bit of interest as well. And I very, very roughly freehanded my script. If you wanted to cut this out with your Cricut or your Silhouette, you could do that. If you wanted to trace some big letters that you have, you could totally do that. Use a stencil, whatever works for you. I very kind of roughly drew them and fixed them up and erased them a little bit. I just used the M, that was the first letter that I did, as my base to kind of make sure they were all roughly the same size. And yeah, I went for it. And so there you just saw how I corrected the fact that I was off center with my paint swipes. I just cut about maybe about half an inch, a little less than half an inch off of the one side that has the lighter blue, and then I just used some of the paper, the one that I used to make my R. I just created a little border kind of there to make sure my paper was 12 by 12, and then I just tucked in a few little labels, and all of those labels and the tags that you see on the left hand side, they all come from the cut apart sheet that is on the back of the paper that has the S. So they kind of match the general color scheme. There's blacks and grays and stuff like that. And so I just pulled out a few of those to give my little layers, because Daisy has a few little layers in her layout too. And then for my title, I was trying to look for a bigger title that I could have down along the bottom because, hi Luna, because Daisy kind of uses her word that she spells boys to start her title. She's got her title starting above that and then flowing down into her picture, and mine's not really going to work that way. So I did want kind of a big title that would stand out and sort of represent the fact that she was using a longer title. So in my little foam words that I have this hashtag. I struggle with using hashtags as titles or using hashtags at all really on my layouts. And this literally says the word hashtag. So I've kind of had it left over, not really knowing how to use it up, but decided I would go ahead and use hashtag. And then I'm just going to use these kind of grayish, whitish letters from Stampin' Up! To spell adorable. So my title will be hashtag adorable, which she is. Storm is still super adorable. I also brought in just a little bit of extra layering by matting my photo and kind of putting a few of the different pattern papers that I used in behind there. I just wanted to create a few little bits of interest and some layers because that's in the original, and it kind of fills up that right hand side, I guess you could say, and brings a little bit of focus to the picture, which, I mean, it's hard for the picture not to be the focus because it's a 5x7 and there is Storm just right there being super, super cute. But it is kind of nice to have a few things around the picture that help to really focus your eye there. I also added a whole bunch of sequins from Spiegel Mom Scraps. I got those from Christy. I think this collection is called Black Tuxedo, so it has blacks and it has a nice kind of stormy gray and some big silver ones and some clear ones. So it was perfect for this layout. And then I remembered that I also got these cork clouds from Christy as well. So what better way to actually use them than to put them on a layout all about storms. So I went back into my paint that I had mixed up to create my gray swipes, and I'm just going to paint these all with different shades of grays. I'm trying not to get them to look too matchy, so I'm kind of putting a base coat of one color on there, as you can see, and then I'm going to go back and touch it with some white or with lighter shades of gray and just build up kind of the interest, I guess. And also the cork will absorb the paint a little bit. So I didn't go in with just straight watercolor. I did have that black watercolor mixed with some acrylic paint that just gives the paint a little bit of weight, so it sits on top of the cork a little bit longer. I still added probably, well, most of them, I think 2 layers. A couple of them have 3 layers. The white one here that I'm about to put down, that's kind of the whitest one I have. It has 3 layers to really make those whites kind of pop and stay more opaque. And I'm just going to sprinkle them all around the layout. And it means that I officially used up this whole package, so that's really good. And I just think they're really cute. Again, clouds, not something that I normally use on my layout, so any chance that I can get to kind of play around with them and use them, I'm going to take it. And I love painting on cork. I love the texture that it brings, and it just kind of makes them all really unique because just like wood veneer, they kind of absorb the paint differently. So each one just looks slightly different from the other, and it gives them a lot of texture and a lot of personality. And then, of course, if I'm going to have clouds, I might as well have some rain. I also had these really adorable little teardrop shaped, kind of clear, flat back cabochons, I guess you could say, from Studio Katia. So I figured I might as well go ahead and throw those in there as well. And then I somehow erased my footage where I gave you a bit of a close-up of the layout. So I've left you with lots of photos at the end, but that is my layout for day 14. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please check out all the links below for everybody else who's playing along today. And if you have any questions, you can leave them for me in the comments down below. Until tomorrow, happy scrapping. Bye.